So this is still Cinema 4D materials here, so we need to replace these. So I'm going to copy by pressing Control and drag another wood material over, and then pressing Command, I'm going to select that wood material and drop it on the first C4D color material. And that's just going to replace that. You can see anything that was white is now this wood material. And now if I head to my wood material to the diffuse channel, I can select on the color and head to my first color, which was this kind of desaturated pink. And I'm actually just going to reduce the mix strength of the image map. So there we go. We can still see some of the grain through it. Reduce it a bit more, see what happens. So we can see the displacement and the normals and the roughness sort of coming through the map, and you get a sort of clear sense of the color and the grain. Let's try that with the others. So again, I'm just going to copy that wood material and then overwrite, pressing Command, and navigate to the color, select my blue. We made the mix strength 0.1, so I'm going to do the same with that. Just going to continue doing that. Let's name these as well. So with the yellow material selected, head to color, swatch panel, select my yellow, and reduce the mix strength to 0.1. Overwrite this. Making it 0.1, we're actually keeping basically 10% of the wood color in the actual design. So we could actually reduce that to 0 and see what happens. We can play with it, but let's just leave it at 0.1 for the minute. Just do the last two materials. So now that we have some color in our texture, I feel like the color's a little bit washed out. So if I head to my image in my deck, the 2D image, I can see how vibrant and bold the colors are. I want to get that across in my 3D file. So if I double click on one of the materials and then select all of the materials by pressing Shift, it's going to allow me to change the attributes of all of the materials at the same time. So the first thing I'm going to do is reduce this mix. And that's going to allow me to have more color in the texture. I'm not using any of the color from the wood material now. The next thing I might do is I'll add a bit of more reflection. So I'm just going to add, and I'm going to reduce the amount of grain that I've got in the texture. So I'm going to go to the normal channel and I'll go to my displacement, and you can see the displacements come through a lot more now. I'll take the mid-level to 0.5 and I'll reduce this down to 0.5 and see what that does. So now you can see there's a lot less grain coming through, and I think I actually prefer that, to be honest. Just going to reset the fracture. I feel like the color's coming through a lot more because we have a lot less highlights in the grain. I already feel like that's better. If we go to our render settings and we lock the ratio and set this to 1920 by 1080, now if we press on the lock button, we can actually see what's happening at full res. You can see the texture is actually a touch big as well. Losing some of the realism because the texture is maybe scaled a touch big. So I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to select all of my materials and take this down to 200. Let's have a look on the wide. And I still feel like we could probably reduce the texture a touch as well. I'm going to reduce the grain a bit more. So we're looking at this at full res again. We only want a sense of texture, we don't want it to overtake the design. I'm going to have to play with the camera imager though, because we've got some of these highlights are blowing out again. But I could actually just adjust the material as well. I quite like how the other colors are working at the moment. If I select just on the white texture, I'm going to go to my diffuse and head to the color channel. And in the HSV, I'm going to bring this down to 90, see what happens. Just taking a pinch out of the highlights there. Let's have a look on the close-up. Also, this black color, I feel like there's not a lot of color coming through. It feels like almost like pure black at the moment. So if we actually look at this color, it's actually quite blue. Let's add a little bit more saturation to it. Let's have a look at our design. It's quite dark, so we need to make sure it stays quite dark. We can bring some of the color through. That feels better. Maybe needs to be a bit darker though. Could be a bit darker. I'm going to adjust the color imager. I'm going to add some saturation, so I'll try a 1.1. Feels a bit more vibrant. And I'm going to reduce the exposure a touch. And maybe just add a bit more contrast by bringing the gamma down. Colors are feeling more similar now, I think. So I might actually copy that tag onto the others, and then we can go through and adjust the individual cameras. 97, and I'm going to adjust the highlights here. Make sure nothing's blowing out. And the same on our close-up. Just adjust the gamma a touch. You're definitely going to need to make little tweaks depending on the angle of the camera. So it's our first shot. It's our mid shot. We can see, the light hitting off the grain down here. think it definitely feels like painted wood. And we can look at our wide. Let's have a look at our design. This color here could definitely be darker. Adjust it slightly. Just don't want to lose the color though. It's a bit better. I think because we've got reflection, we could maybe pull the reflection back on this particular color. You can see that the actual color's coming through a bit more and the material's not as faded. Let's have a look at our deck now. Feels better. So now we've finished our design and animation. In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to render your project. I'll see you there.